Gil Martin of Locked On NHL with you as we continue our coverage of the 2022 NHL Draft. And joining me, Brandon Pillar of Locked On Senators. He is our prospects expert. And now joining us, Justin Pooni of Locked On Canucks. Jonathan Lekkerimäki is the pick. Justin, how excited are you about this selection?
Very excited, actually. This is exactly what I projected the Canucks needed. They needed a young guy who can score goals because this team, while they do have young pieces, we're all expecting JT Miller to get traded tonight, eventually, sometime. So you're going to need eventually someone to fill that void of a guy who can put the puck in the back of the net. Now, as Patrick Allvin said in his interview, he thinks that this player will take some time. They're going to, he's only 17, so they're going to let him, develop and get a little bit stronger, bigger. And then when he's ready, come to the NHL. Because the Canucks do have the signing of Andrei Kuzmenko. They do have the ability to wait for a winger, right? So all in all, I saw projections had him as high as number 8, number 10. So the Canucks definitely got a good value pick here. So I'm very happy with this pick.
Brandon, what is the strongest point of his skill set at this point in his development?
Yeah, Justin, I think you should be happy about this pick in Jonathan Lekkerimäki because he has one of the best shots in the entire draft. And he's one of those players where maybe you look at the rest of his game and you're wondering how it's going to all fit together. But when you have a guy that has the release of Lekkerimäki, like he has a pro-ready shot already. So when you have one dynamic attribute like that, you can work on the rest of the parts of his game. And as a winger, you know what? If he needs a good centerman and maybe a more defensively responsible winger flanking the other side, that's fine because he's going to be a guy that's finishing the plays, and especially on the power play. Like he has that ability to just skate up the ice, get past the blue line, and just rip a puck past a goalie like that, and you're up 1-0 in a flash. Like he's the type of player that if you're the Vancouver Canucks, you kind of feel like you've got other spots figured out on your roster. Why not try to take a home run swing on a guy with an amazing shot like Lekkerimäki? I like this pick, and I like the direction the Canucks went here.
And Brandon, you spoke about the shot. Elias Pettersson, we know, has a bomb of a shot. So having those two options on the power play, makes it hard for defenses and also a lot harder for goalies as well.
No question about that. Brandon, what does he need to work on? You say he's 2 or 3 years away. A lot of players who are drafted are. What specifically does he need to work on to get to that next level?
Well, when you're in the pros, unfortunately, you can't play on offense all the time, and he doesn't have a lot of interest defensively, and that's very typical for his type of prospect at this age. He's going to work on his defensive part of the game because elite prospects, they mentioned he's a very similar player to Mike Hoffman. Now, as a fan of the Senators, I got to see Mike Hoffman a lot. He would score in the 20s of goals. He would put up massive power play points. But as soon as that puck was in his own end, he was basically a liability, and you might as well just change him off the ice, even if it means your team is down a man for 30 seconds, because he's not able to defend very well. And I think that's Lekkerimäki's biggest downside is he's grown up just relying on that big shot and scoring goals and being the guy that finishes on the power play. He hasn't had to worry about his game defensively, whereas if he's going to find a regular spot on this Vancouver Canucks lineup with a lot of talented wingers, like you mentioned, Justin, he's going to have to prove he's not a liability defensively.
Is he coachable? Does he have the work ethic to improve in this area?
I think he does, and it's interesting. He was one of the players playing over in Djurgården. Djurgården has had a great year as far as prospect goes, but he didn't have a lot of success in the SHL, but Djurgården was actually relegated to the lower league in the Allsvenskan League, so he may have a better time developing and being able to work on that defensive game up against lesser competition in the Allsvenskan League as opposed to the SHL. So I think give him a year, give him 2 years over there, and maybe bring him over then to play in North America. I don't think the Canucks are trying to rush this guy. They just got Kuzmenko, like you mentioned, Justin, and I think they're able to be a little bit patient and try to bank on the upside of a guy with an incredible shot like Lekkerimäki.
Justin, where do you think the Canucks look next as far as improving this team is concerned?
Well, the big elephant in the room, as I mentioned off the top, was the JT Miller trade. There was reports that, there's something with the Islanders was worked out, and then it kind of fell through last minute. That is the shoe that I think every Vancouver's waiting to drop. Whether it's later on sometime this draft week, or they hold on to him. That is the shoe that has to fall. I think going forward, this team has the talent at least in the top 6 and the top 9 to be contender for a playoff spot, but we all know the back end is still a huge concern. That is what I want to see the Canucks address going forward in the draft. Look at, you drafted Podkolzin in your last first round pick, right? A forward. We know that Pettersson's the best. We want to see, draft and develop some defensemen, because the pipeline for defensemen in Vancouver is not deep right now. And that, as we saw with Colorado, who just won the Stanley Cup, you need a strong defense if you want to contend, which we all know everybody in Vancouver wants to happen.
All right. For more, you can watch and listen to Justin on Locked On Canucks. Justin, thanks so much for joining us.